Welcome to this explainer. Today we're tackling Math Unit 03 Lesson 04, which is all about applying rational numbers. We're going to see exactly how this math works in the real world, specifically what happens when we're dealing with our actual dollars and cents. So let's dive right into this mission.
Here's our mission briefing for today. We'll start with a real-world challenge, move into the estimation check, go through the step-by-step solution, correct some common sign errors, hand it over to you for a self-check, and finally, wrap up with an optional challenge.
Section 1. The Real-World Challenge.
We're kicking things off with a scenario that actually requires all four major operations. That's adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing rational numbers, exactly as it's laid out in the Grade 7 standards. Now, what happens when your bank account drops below zero and you need to split the remaining debt? To really ground our math in reality today, ask yourself how you navigate negative numbers when your own cash is on the line. Money is honestly one of the best ways to understand rational numbers. I mean, a negative balance is something absolutely nobody wants, but we all definitely need to know how to calculate it.
Let's call this scenario the bank account rescue. Here's the setup. We start with an initial balance of negative $15.50. Yeah, we're overdrawn. But then we have some earnings, $5.25 per chore for 4 chores total. Next up, an expense, gotta buy a snack for $8.75. And the final step? We need to split whatever is left, whether that's a positive balance or a remaining debt, equally with a sibling. So we start in the negatives, multiply our earnings, add them to our account, subtract a snack expense, and finally divide that remainder.
What's really interesting here is how visualizing our positive and negative values anchors them. Down in the red, we've got our initial debt. Then you see a big green bar shooting up for our chore earnings and another red drop for the snack cost. Being able to visualize the magnitude and direction, positive or negative, is a totally crucial first step in understanding rational numbers, long before we even start crunching the exact decimals.
Section 2. The estimation check.
Before we even touch a pencil or do the heavy lifting, let's just do a quick gut check with some easy math. Estimation is an incredibly powerful tool for catching mistakes later on. We're using magnitude estimation right here to find our ballpark by rounding our exact, kind of messy decimal values to friendly integers. So negative 1550 just becomes negative 15. 525 times 4 becomes 5 times 4. And that snack expense rounds from negative 875 down to negative 10. This makes the mental math an absolute breeze.
Let's actually test this out in our heads. If I take my earnings of $20 and add it to my negative 15 starting balance, I get a positive 5. Then, minus the 10 for the snack leaves me at negative 5. Splitting that debt in half with my sibling means our final answer should be right around negative $2.50. So we're basically expecting a small remaining debt.
Section 3. Step-by-step solution. With our estimate firmly in hand, let's track our operations step by step and see how this builds with the exact math standards. First, we multiply to find our total chore earnings. Second, we add that to our initial overdrawn balance. Third, we subtract the snack cost. And fourth, we divide the final amount by 2. It's a perfect sequence of operations, but we really have to pay close attention to our units and our negative signs at each and every stage. The absolutely crucial point here is interpreting the signs correctly at every single step. We multiply 4 times 525 to get positive $21. When we deposit that, well, negative 1550 plus 21 takes us to a positive balance of $5.50. We're out of the red, but wait, then we buy that snack. Positive 550 minus 875 drops us back below zero to a negative $3.25. Finally, we split the debt, dividing negative 3.25 by 2, which gives us negative 1.625. Now, because we are dealing with actual US dollars, we obviously can't have a thousandth of a cent. We have to round our final division of negative 1.625 to exactly negative $1.63. Notice how that fits perfectly with our earlier gut check? It is super close to our estimate of negative $2.50. See, estimation absolutely works. Section 4. Correcting common sign errors. Let's hit pause for a second to highlight a very common trap that is so easy to fall into. This brilliantly illustrates why you just cannot drop a negative sign. A huge mistake happens right at the deposit stage. If you ignore the initial debt and just add the raw numbers, $15.50 plus 21, you'd think you have $36.50. But the correct method reminds us that combining opposite signs actually means finding the difference. Losing that negative sign when combining decimals will completely derail your real-world answer. It'll literally leave you thinking you're rich when you're actually barely breaking even. You really have to remember this golden rule of math. Subtracting a negative is just adding a positive in disguise. And adding a positive to a negative means finding the difference. Keep this locked in your memory when you're working through your operations. It is a memorable, foolproof way to correct those common sign mistakes, for sure.
Section 5. Your turn. Self-check.
Okay, now I'm passing the baton over to you for a brief, independent self-check to really test your rational number fluency. Imagine a submarine drop. It starts exactly at sea level, which is 0. It drops 4.5 meters 3 separate times. Then it rises 2.2 meters. What is the final depth? Go ahead and pause the explainer right here. Use your internal monologue to track the positive and negative signs, map out the operations, and solve for the submarine's final depth. I'll wait.
Okay, let's see how you did. The answer is negative 11.3 meters. If you realized a drop means negative and multiplied negative 4.5 by 3 to get negative 13.5, and then added the rise of positive 2.2, you correctly arrived at negative 11.3 meters. Understanding the real-world context of words like drop and rise is absolutely everything.
Section 6, Optional Challenge. So those of you looking to bridge into some advanced material beyond grade 7, let's briefly look at an Algebra 1 extension that is directly related to our chore money scenario. We can actually turn our chore problem into a linear equation. If we let x equal the number of chores, our equation becomes y equals 5.25x minus 15.50. This gives us a really powerful tool to predict the future. It leaves us with a final provocative thought to ponder. How many chores exactly do you need to do to reach a balance greater than 0? And even further, how could you use graphing on a coordinate plane to find the exact moment your bank account breaks even and crosses the x-axis? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep practicing those signs.